Hi, welcome to another weekly session. And today's session we'll be discussing about argumentations and few of the mathematical concepts. And as you already know that the weekly sessions are about to wrap up. So this is the fourth last weekly session. And if you wanna appreciate the efforts taken and the pain taken, please ensure that you do hit the subscribe button, like button, and share with your friends and colleagues. So today's topic is about albumentations. Albumentations is specific will be more focused on albumentations. Now albumentations, what is albumentation? Well, albumentation is a Python packaging tool or a data augmentation tool which is vastly used in the industry, be it Ultralytics, YOLO models, or be it any detection models or the industry expert. So I think this is something which is worth discussing, and I think it would be a good investment of your time and knowledge. So without any delay, let's get started. Hope you like the session. So I don't claim myself as a master of argumentations, and you already know that I'm also learning with you. So this is what I could understand by argumentations. So this is an image augmentation library, which is a dedicated image augmentation library, and that is what it makes it so special. Now, what we have over here is, let's start with this. Getting started is something we would be more concerned and focused on. So we have image augmentation for classification, we have mask augmentation for segmentation, for object detection, key point augmentation, and yeah. So this is something of use. The list of transformations and the supported targets. This is what you can do. That kind of transformation and the targets, and yeah. So these are spatial level transforms. So image, these are possible for image, these are possible for boxes. For boxes there's less, so you cannot do coarse dropout, you cannot do grid distortion, you cannot do grid dropout for boxes, and you cannot do random grid shuffle. Makes sense? So I think this is a way more exhaustive library compared to TensorFlow or PyTorch augmentations, because it has tried to implement the PyTorch augmentations and goes beyond them. So you have many more pre-implemented augmentations which you need not to brainstorm and think about, and quite a standard collection of the augmentations. So this is, I think I did find a tutorial for. So this works by defining a pipeline. So you define the pipeline of augmentations, and using that pipeline, you perform data augmentations. So let's get started. So if you take a look at this, this is for classification, and I read this particular article, and quite interesting. So first you need to get the necessary imports, the argumentations and OpenCV. Then you define a very minimalistic or a bare minimum pipeline, which is common compose, which is quite common, and gets finds its resemblance with PyTorch. So the first transformation which you want to do is a random crop with this height and this width. Then you want to do random flip, and you want to do random brightness contrast of 0.2. So what this would be like, the first step is random crop in the pipeline. So it would do a random crop with 100% probability of this particular dimension. Now after the random crop, we have a 50% probability of doing a horizontal flip. So 50% it might be flipped, 50% it won't be flipped. If you change it to 70%, then the odds will be higher for the flip. So it would be flipped with a probability of 70%, and it won't be flipped with a probability of 30%. Now we have random brightness contrast. In random brightness contrast, we have a probability of 80% remains unchanged, or 0.2% gets changed. So something like we have already seen in probability theory, or the tree structure, decision tree structure, and you read the image, pass the image through the transform, you get the transformed image. And for every run it would be a different transformation. Even though the command line remains the same, for every run the transformation would be different because we are having a random factor. So this is a very trivial example. Now let's start with something which is so I think this is of more importance, and you can get to these two articles. We can get to these two articles at a later point, but let's get started with defining a simple augmentation pipeline for image augmentation. And this is something you would love to learn. And I think this is particularly of greater interest rather than those things, because this is the baseline and the fundamental point where you'll get started. And once you have a good understanding of this, you'll be good to go. So let's get a sample image. Let's say line. Is it JPEG? No, it's not a JPEG. Always try to find a JPEG image. Is it JPEG? I don't think so. Copy the image address. It's not JPEG. Let's search here JPEG. JPG. Now you'll have a JPEG image. Which session is it? I think it's session number 26. And there you go. It's session number 26. Good enough. At this point, I think I've not prepared this particular notebook, but we can get started. Doesn't matter. Documentations, and you might have observed that the website is not maintained. So I'll maintain the website as well. It's a trivial task, so it's good to get it done at once. So you must learn Linux commands on the go, as that makes the learning process much better. So wget is for download, -o is for changing the output file name. I want to change it as line.jpg. Now we're going to start with the simple augmentation pipeline. So the simple augmentation pipeline asks me to do the perform imports. Good enough. This is a function for visualization, so that I need not to write it every time. So every time so it's a good practice to try to functionize every aspect of your code. Fixed size, let's say 15 cross 15, and plot.axis off. Then we have plot dot im show is image. For historical reason, OpenCV reads an image in PGF format, so color channels of the image might be of the order argumentations most common in RGB format. Yeah, we need to convert the color obviously. Image equal to cp2.imread, let's say lion.jpg, and color transform cv2.convert color image cv2.color pgr to RGB, and let's see whether or not we are able to visualize the image. So yep, good enough. So now let's define a random pipeline. A first transformation pipeline, if it has a single element, will not have any compose thing. If it has if it needs multiple transformations to be done, then it will be covered under compose. So let's begin with the complicated part, because the simple part I think you need not to waste time on. And documents are available for the simple part. So it's the complicated part which you might face trouble with, and I'm there for you for the complicated part. Clahe a dot random rotate 90 a dot transpose. So let's just copy paste this particular set, then we'll experiment on our own. I think that will be more interesting rather than wasting time. Let's seed the results so as to obtain replicability. So for this particular run, we got this particular transformed image. If I rerun this, I'll get the same transformation. Now if I remove the seeding, I won't get the same transformation, rather a different transformation for every run. So this is a different transformation. Let's see what another transformation we can observe. Wow, this is also a different transformation. So is this another transformation? Now this one is kind of complicated transformation. Now what is the difference between this transformation, this particular transformation pipeline, and the next one? You can observe we have one off here. What is one off? So either you will do this or do that. So let's say argumentations one off. To decide which augmentation within one-off block is used, the following rule is applied. We normalize all the probabilities within a block to 1. After this, we pick the augmentation based on the normalized probability values. In the example above, IIIA additive Gaussian noise has probability 0.9 and 0.6. After normalization, they become 0.6 and 0.4, which means if we decide we use with a probability of 0.6 and Gaussian noise, otherwise, if we consider Gaussian noise the next step, then we'll consider Gaussian noise with flag force apply equal to true. Did you understand this? I think simple enough. P equal to 0.6 is probability for this particular thing to be selected, and within that P equal to 0.9 means probability of that particular transformation to happen. So is the case here. We are not this particular P equal to P3. So P equal to P3 is probability of IIIA IAA additive Gaussian noise to be selected with a probability of P3, else 1 minus P3 for Gaussian noise. Now these have their own individual probabilities of 0.9 if selected and performing transformation, and if selected not performing transformation is 0.9, 0.1. So ultimate transformation to happen would be P3 into 0.9, and for this transformation to happen it would be P3 into 0.6. I hope I am clear with this point. I'm clear with this point, and let's try to implement this particular pipeline. So quite good and simple enough. Alright, let's remove the seed factor and try to see what the result is. So you can observe that this particular library is functioned by simply by defining a set of transformations and getting them to transform on your image. Now what you need to actually now learn is the basic transformations which are available in TensorFlow and PyTorch. Start with those, then move on to the particular transformations which are available in Albumentation, something like this. IAA additive Gaussian noise, and then we have Gaussian noise, we have motion blur, median blur, blur, we have optical distortion, grid distortion, IAA piecewise affine, we have Clahe, IAA sharpen, IAA emboss. So these kind of things which are pre-implemented transformations, and you need not to worry about them. So just go through the list, keep on going through the list one by one, and you will keep on learning about them. So let's say we have opened up ringing overshoot. How does it matter? Create a ringing or overshoot artifacts by convolving image with 2D sync filter. Alright, sine curve filter. For PyTorch datasets is quite simple, extremely simple. The way you deal with datasets is there, but the only change you need to add is under transformations. When you mention the PyTorch transformation, now you won't be mentioning the PyTorch transformations, rather you'll be mentioning the Albumentations transformations. That's the basic difference. And for segmentation is similar under transform, just mention the transformations. I think we are good to go with this particular topic, and we can move on to the next bunch of topics, which is how to calculate the number of parameters and those kind of things. Just give it a try to work around with this, and yeah, all right. So let's move on to our next topic, which is quite relevant from interview perspective, data science interview perspective, and as a fundamental theory and a challenge, I feel many people suffer with this idea and topic, which is not a topic to be confused with, or a topic which is quite interesting. I mean, quite simple if you explain and don't go by the formula. So I will tell you which one to learn as a formula and saves time, and which one not to learn as a formula and will save time. So people do the other way around. So people try to understand this part and don't learn the formula, and for this part people learn the formula and don't understand, which is not the right way to deal with it. So what you should do is you should understand the formula, you should understand the working from both of them, but you should remember the formula for output size, and do not and you can skip over the formula for the number of parameters. If you remember the formula and get it correct every time, no matter what the input layer or the layers you're concerned with, then please go ahead. Else, understanding the number of parameters is something I feel is my own preferred way of dealing with this question. So this is a interview question, quite relevant interview question, and I think you should try to understand this particular topic, and it's not difficult. So let's get started. So this is our first model, our dummy model, which has input shape 10 10 1 and gives an output of sigmoid with a single hidden layer 1 comma 3, right? So how do you calculate the dimensions? So this is a simple formula. output size dimension equals to number of filters minus f plus 2p by s whole thing. Okay, whole thing plus 1 is the answer. So if what is n? N is the initial number of nodes. F is the number of filters. 2p where p is for padding. 0 if there is no padding. S is the stride. So the better way to write this would be, I think, I can write it as p1 and s0. So that s1 p0. P has a default value of 0 and S strides has a default value of 1. Obviously, you don't want a division by 0 error, and that doesn't make any sense. If you keep it stride as 0, stride will remain there. So what is padding? Padding is the kind of, how do you pad any particular thing? You add a boundary to it. That is padding. There is a different fundamental concept of neural networks. Please go out and check it out. Filters is something I think you already know. What is stride? Stride is the number of skips you want to do while doing the convolution function. So you are at the top left of the image. Now you want to move one step, then you will have a stride of 1. If you want to move by 2 steps, you will have stride equal to 2. If you want to move stride by 3 steps, then you have stride equal to 3. And that's how it progresses. So this is the output. So it's not manually possible to calculate the output. So what we do, we have defined by generalization, we have defined a formula which is n minus f plus 2p divided by s whole plus 1. So this is the n. 10 minus f is 3. F is 3. This is the number of filters. This is the number of filters. What am I typing? And this is not the right parameters name, but just for your understanding. And this is the filter size. So f over here is the filter size, and n is the original filter size. So original filter size or the image size. So 10 minus filter size is 3. 10 minus 3 is 7 plus no padding. So now we have on the numerator 10 minus 7, which is 10 minus 3, which is 7. Stride is 1. So it's still 7 and plus 1, which gives us 8. And since we have equidimensional image, we'll have 8, 8, third dimension is dependent on the number of channels you have, straight from the theory. If not clear, please go and learn second course of deep learning.ai specialization. You will be extremely comfortable with this basics of neural networks. Now this part, calculating the output shape, is quite simple. Once you have calculated the convolution 2D, activation is just a mathematical operation on top of the values of the matrix. The matrix 8 cross 8 matrix obtained are just a mathematical output on this. So would it change the dimensions? No. Let's consider this particular neural net. We have 10, 10, and then we are applying a convolution 2-dimensional of number of filters of 5, but the filter is 3. So output should be 8, 8 as calculated, but here the number of channels would change to 5 as the number of filters is 5. Activation of sigmoid won't render any change. However, another convolution network would definitely lead to a change wherein the filter size is now 3 and the number of filters is 2. So I can say with a definite confidence, I can say that the number of output channels would be 2. And for this, if you do a number of filters calculation for f value equal to 3, what it would be 8 minus 3, which is 5 plus no padding is still 5 divided by stride is 1, still 5 plus 1, that makes it 6. Since it is equidimensional, we will have 6, 6, 2. I tried to act max pooling, and I'll get to that at a later stage, but this is what the architecture is. And I think we have understood the point of calculating the parameters. We'll continue this. Yep. So where were we? We were here and we discussed this particular network. So is the case with this network, and so is the case with another network. So we have 100 cross 100. Now you have 3 cross 3, 100 minus 3, 97. Any padding? No padding. Let's add padding. Let's add padding equal to 3, strides equal to 2. And we messed up. Oh yeah, padding is valid or same, not the PyTorch one, obviously. So what is valid? Valid is the padding, so that valid is the default one. So valid is the one which ensures that it remains the same, and the same, if you add padding equal to same, it will do ensure that zero padding is done in the manner that the output remains of the same dimension. So let's do same and strides equal to 2. And this is the thing. Let's not add padding and strides over here, unnecessary confusing. So these concepts are better understood using PyTorch, the padding and the strides. But let's not jump into it. And PyTorch has a very good definition and documentation for padding and strides. So once you're comfortable with this, let's not jump into directly into that. Once you're comfortable with this, it's hardly a matter of minutes. Jump into the documentation of PyTorch, jump into the documentation of PyTorch conf 2D and go through it. Once you go through it, it has this particular thing which explains the output dimensions. So whatever the input dimension is, 2 times padding minus the kernel size minus 1 by stride, whatever it is. Alright, so good enough. I think you have got the brief understanding of what the structure is. Now let's understand parameters. How do you understand parameters? So now you have here one filter. One filter. What is a parameter? So first thing to understand is what the majority of the people don't understand. They confuse parameter with weights. Weights is different thing. Weights is static. Once the model is trained or untrained, no matter what state it is in, at whatever stage you are concerned or you're taking the model into consideration, that particular stage comes under the spotlight, and at that particular stage whatever the weights are, those are fixed. They are not dynamic, they do not change. Or what if you continue model training, that is not independent variable. What is independent variable? The filters, the value the filters have, those influence the weights. Those are the deciding factor for the weights, and that is why we call parameters as the weights and the biases, not the we call the parameters as the filters, the filter weights and the biases, not the other things, not these particular images, not the image volumes. That is what I meant, not weights. I meant image volumes. So what are parameters? The weights are parameters. Please try to understand. Weights are the parameters. I did speak something wrong. The rectification is weights and biases are the parameters, not the model dimensions or the matrices derived from it, right? So this 8 cross 8 cross 1 is just the output volume. But what is the output volume? How do we generate the output volume? The neural network has the parameters. This is just the output volume. If you cut the neural network at that particular point and just obtain the output, this is the output volume will obtain. But that does not mean the parameters. What is the parameter? The interconnection of the neural nets, the neural net nodes. And how do we understand the interconnection of the nodes? By the filters thing. So you have a filter which is 3 cross 3. There's one such filter. What will the number of what will be the number of parameters? So 3 cross 3, 9 parameters plus one thing plus one bias term, that makes it 10 parameters. Now activation has no parameter to be learned. There's a simple operation which is the mathematical operation 1 by 1 plus e to the power minus x, and after the operation is performed you have the output. So there's nothing to be learned. Whatever the input is, it's mapped to 1 by 1 plus e to the power minus x and you obtain the output. Now comes this. This is, you have 10 10 1 what, and 10 10 1 you have 5 filters of 3 cross 3. 5 filters of 3 cross 3. 3 cross 3 in itself has 9 9 weights plus one bias term, 10 parameters. How many such 3 cross 3 filters we have? We have 5 such 3 cross 3 filters. So 50. The first part is understandable and easy. So let's generalize this part. Is this 3 cross 3 filter? Is it 3 cross 3 filter? No. It ultimately depends on how many 3 cross 3 filters are we going. It also depends on the how many 3 cross 3 filters are dependent. I mean, it's unique channel, right? What if it is having 3 channels like here? What would you do? So 3 cross 3 is the filter, and now we have a volume factor because that was not considered as the volume because it was a grayscale image. Now we have a volume factor 3. So you will be convolving over the entire length. So the entire filter would not be a 3 cross 3 and you will just not convolve over a 2D image, right? It's a 2D image and you won't convolve over this. It's the entire volume, it's the entire brick. And the brick is convolved with another brick which is 3 cross 3. From here we get 3 cross 3. And the next dimension of that particular, now we are just concerned with the filter dimension. Please mind, we are concerned with the filter dimension, and the filter dimension can be obtained from this 3 cross 3 and the input 3 cross 3 cross 3 is the volume and the filter volume of the filter. How many such filters? How many such 3 cross 3 cross 3 filters? 8. So each 3 cross 3 filters has how many parameters? It has 3 cross 3 cross 3, 27 plus 1, 28 parameters. 28 into 8 is 224. Is this clear? I hope it should be clear. So is the case over here. How do we reach 78? We have 3 cross 3, 9. 9 plus 1. We have 3 cross 3 into 3. Right? We have 3 cross 3 into 8. Over here we have 8 dimensions. 3 cross 3 into 8 dimension, that would be the size of one filter. How many such filter? Only one. So 3 cross 3 into 8, which is nothing but 9 into 8, 72, and 1 for bias, that makes us 73. Just a matter of practice. Once you go through this once, twice, thrice, you will be good to go. Now there's one more concept I would like to explain, which is trainable parameters, non-trainable parameters, and non-learning layers, which are no parameters. Batch normalization is called as a non-trainable parameter because after a model we have 4 from batch normalization. However, a max pooling has no parameters, it's just doing a max pooling. And we had a discussion on batch normalization in one of the previous videos. Please go and check it. You'll have an understanding of what batch normalization does. Extremely interesting topic and quite often asked in interviews. So you can see no effect of batch. Max pooling, no parameters. I hope this concept was clear. So a brief overview. Try to understand what are parameters. Anything which is independent, that is parameter. That's the best definition. Don't ever learn the formulas. Try to understand the parameters. Try to understand the shapes. Once you understand the shapes and sizes and the output shapes, then you will be able to calculate the parameters with great ease. If it's not clear, please reach out to me in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to assist you. Alright, take care. Bye-bye.